But Neil, let's transition to our next topic, because I think that's the thing that our teammates at AWS and the sports team are most excited about, which is we have this history of solving this problem of the turbulence off the car and designing these next-gen cars with F1, or helping them to run the simulations to design these F1 cars. And I think now we're looking at designing a trophy for F1 as well. Is there like a history there of partners designing trophies? How did this come about?
Yes, it's pretty cool, actually. Full transparency, I didn't know about this until relatively recently when we were starting to work on this, that actually being a partner, you get to design a trophy, right, for some of the races.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And you get to go up and give it as well, some representative. So one of the things that we were asked to do is, okay, for the Canadian Grand Prix, there needs to be a trophy design.
Mm-hmm.
And so AWS then had to think, okay, if we want to create a trophy, what's the best way we can do it? How can we use it as an example to show some exciting new technology that is coming around the corner? And so what we decided to do was to actually use Gen AI to help design the trophy, which I think is a really cool idea. And it certainly has a lot of inspiration around how you can use Gen AI to create new things. So we set about the task of actually going about that. Gotcha. I don't know if you actually, do we want to show that teaser video?
Yeah, let's show the teaser. Get everybody a little excited about what we're talking about here. So this new trophy is actually getting debuted June 9th, right? I guess this week or next week, depending on how your country looks at when a week starts. But June 9th coming out on what this trophy is going to be. So I think our whole team is very excited. I've been getting pings off to the side here about when are you going to talk about the trophy? So let's get into it. I know we kind of, like we just said, base the design off of some of these simulations we ran with the turbulence coming off the back of the car, right? And this problem we had with overtaking. So I think just for visuals here, some other cool visuals, we have these things. So these are kind of some of the inspirations for this trophy design, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a kind of an older CFD simulation that I ran where you see CFD being this computational fluid dynamics that we were talking about earlier, this idea that it's invisible, right? Car following car, how do you know what's going on? Well, It turns out if you use a computer program, you can also do some nice post-processing where you color it, basically. And so the red being very fast-moving air and the blue being very slow-moving air. Okay. And so that gives you a sense of what's going on. And one of the things that you'll notice, which is actually similar to like an aircraft wing, where I don't know if you've ever seen stuff on YouTube, or even if you're on a plane, you see these big like vortices swirling around.
Yeah.
That's actually what you're kind of seeing a little bit on this, that you're also getting this swirling flow. And I personally think that's actually quite beautiful, seeing these sort of swirling motions, seeing clouds, you see in the water. So this was one of the inspirations for the trophy design. Like, how can we incorporate some of the work that we did with this fluid dynamics into an actual trophy design?
You said we used Gen AI to help design this trophy, right? So how did we take inspiration from these sorts of CFD packages, CFD packages, and turn them into this trophy using Gen AI?
Yeah. So basically first of all, I don't know if we're going to give a link, but there's a blog. It's actually just come out today. And definitely for people who are interested, they should read it, because it's more what we're just about to say is there's a more detailed version of that.
Yeah, let's see if we can get Kyle to drop it in. Kyle always gives me a little grief for not dropping links in the chat fast enough. So let's see if he can drop the blog in. But yeah, let's talk about that. So what just lost my train of thought. Yeah, how did we go about doing this? So you can look at the blog. It looks like you just dropped it in there.
Yes. If people have a look at the blog, they can maybe follow along a little bit what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But essentially, we thought, okay, we want to use Gen AI to develop this. Ultimately, just in terms of working backwards, somebody has to manufacture it at the end. And I think that's described a little bit more in the blog, so I won't go into it too much detail. But essentially what our task is to give the image of the inspiration, to give the brief, essentially. Here's what we think the trophy should look like. The person goes, I'm not sure I could actually physically make that. So there's a little bit of sort of iteration, which is often, by the way, Formula One's the same. Some aerodynamicist in a Formula One team will be like, I think we should do this. And then you go to the manufacturing shop floor and the person goes, well, there's no physical way of making it. It's like one of those magic diagrams where you sort of look with a cross-eyed to find it. Yeah. So what our aim was to give plenty of descriptions to those designers to actually physically make, and there's a nice description in the blog. And so what we used is Amazon Bedrock for that, because Bedrock has a collection of these foundational models that you can use to do it. And in fact, well, I could probably, if I click the right button, I might be able to share my screen on this. Oh, there we go. Working. Yeah. So some people may be familiar with this. So yeah, the great thing with Bedrock is you can actually get access to lots of different foundational models from our partners, but also ourselves, so the Titan ones. So for chat, for text, I actually use this all the time. It's so handy to be able to, write a little script, or, because most of the stuff I'm doing is like programming. So I just want to go in and do it. I genuinely use it all the time. It's fantastic. But in this context, what they were doing is giving some prompts to the image generator. Maybe some people have done this already to get images out. And so we actually talk about it in the blog. This blog here, so we sort of talk about the actual prompt we do. So now this could be dangerous because I'm going to try and do this live, which...
Oh, man.
Okay, so I'm just going to copy the example prompt that we have.
Okay, so that's from the blog that we linked.
From the blog, right? Yeah. Now, of course, anybody who knows anything about ML knows, you can play around with seeds, the prompt strength, the number of images, then give it more detail. But hopefully we'll see in a moment some things it gave to. In fact, in the blog itself, we give an example of the sort of images that were generated. And of course, I'm cheating because I'm basically skipping to close to the end prompt. Whereas, of course, in reality, there was, lots of intermediate. And you can see these designs. Now, I have to be careful not to say what the actual one looks like, but when you have seen the actual one, I'll let you then make a conclusion of how similar these are or not to it. But you can imagine what it meant was, one of my colleagues, David, was doing a lot of this. He was then working and sort of iteratively go, okay, let's try this, let's try that. Just remember that for anybody with CAD skills, computer-aided design skills or drawing skills, if you try to draw this in a CAD package, how much time it would take to draw this? Like, to come up with these new designs where literally to be able to do it in a few clicks of a button, in the engineering space, like Formula One, generative AI is becoming so interesting because of this ability to come up with lots of conceptual designs very quickly, that then you can go and take a manufacturer and adapt. But just to come up with lots of ideas, this is exactly what it is. So the great thing is you can do it, right? You can go to Bedrock, you can follow, and we have the exact instructions in the blog, and you can reproduce this. And we went even one step further. I thought I would show this particular thing because this is exactly what was used. But we also created this Party Rock app where you can actually create your own trophy and submit it as part of a competition. And there's actually a link in the blog to that. So if you go down to the bottom of the blog, down here, there's the Party Rock Trophy sweepstakes. So you can log into that and start designing actually your own trophy.
Gotcha. Let's dive into that for a second. Yeah. So our trophy design is being debuted June 9th. So keep an eye out for that. But also customers are able to submit their own designs for a trophy. What's going on with that sweepstakes?
Yeah. Exactly. So they can put it in, and so it is due. So it's a little bit longer. So it's due by October 31st, and then the actual winner will be announced at reInvent, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you can jump into that. You just sign in. You don't even have to have an AWS account. You just put in your normal email address. and then you can start doing it and submitting the entries, and then you might get a chance to be a winner, which is
well, there you go, guys.
Pretty cool. Because I didn't say what the actual prize was.
That's always what the heck? We got to talk about the prize here.
It's a paid all access VIP trip to one of the races next year, and I should say that if you haven't been to a sort of VIP trip to a F1, then that is a really cool prize. They are that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I obviously am not allowed to apply.
I absolutely, so I will be submitting my design in about 15 minutes when this show is over.